The system wants me to redeem my depressed husband. I refuse. When he lifted a knife to slice his arm, I acted like I saw nothing, threw open the balcony window, and wailed. The limited edition heels I just bought snapped. Oh my God, I can't live! Afraid of disturbing the neighbors, he put the knife down and came to soothe me. Don't cry. We'll go shopping and buy a new pair. Past midnight, when he tried to go sit alone by the empty tracks, I shoved my ice-cold feet into his arms. I'm freezing to death. Warm me up. He shuddered all over, frowned, gripped my feet, and yanked the quilt tighter. After a long while together, he still wanted to die. I still couldn't care less. Then before you die, let's get divorced. He froze. Do I have to divorce you to die? I rolled my eyes. Duh. Only if I divorce you can I get out of this hellhole. He suddenly hugged me, flustered. Then I won't die. I'm not getting divorced. I was unlucky enough to be picked by a system and dropped in as Gu Huaizi's wife, the wife of a gloomy, depressed man. In a tone like bestowing a sacred mission, the system coaxed me. Miss Zhan, in this script, only by successfully redeeming your wounded husband can you return to your original world. I yanked open the suffocating curtains and, eyes dull, shot back. Why? I bust my ass commuting like a dog, then come home and coddle this man so he won't kill himself? I want to die myself. So, whenever Gu Huaizi went chasing death, I usually pretended not to see. After warning me repeatedly to no effect, the system gave up. Fine. If you can harden your heart against saving such a gorgeous man, Zhan Yuhua, suit yourself. Without the system policing me, I stopped caring whether he lived or died. Gu Huaizi's a rich second gen. His old man left him a fat inheritance, so he doesn't work a single day. He's the walking meme. I don't want money, I just want love. Too much cash to spend. And he's still depressed. And I, a wage slave workhorse, get dragged into this world to redeem young master melancholy. What a joke. Are ordinary people's lives not lives? Since you're my husband, you can serve me. Don't expect me to throw myself at you just to get the cold shoulder, no way. Today, like always, he holed up in his room. I pounded on the door, all impatience. Annoyed, he cracked it open, only those deep eyes showing, fixing on me. What do you want? His tone wasn't great. I'm hungry. You go cook. Mine was worse. No. He'd barely said the word before trying to slam and lock the door. I wedged my foot and shoved. He's 6'1", standing there blank-faced. His bangs were so long that when he lowered his head, they hid his eyes. All you saw was that razor-sharp jawline. One look at his deadpan face and my temper spiked. Go cook, then go downstairs and get a haircut. Look at you, you're like a damn ghost. Pale already. With hair that long, tell me that's not ghostly. He still didn't move. I'd had it. I grabbed his wrist and yanked. He stumbled into my arms, startled and at a loss. Are you crazy? I flipped up the bangs and clipped my own barrette to his hair. Seeing my handsome husband's full face, half my anger melted. My voice softened despite myself. Be good. You're my husband. I'm hungry if you won't take care of me. Who will? He blinked. Like it made sense. I let him go. He straightened his wrinkled shirt, rolled his sleeves back down to hide the self-harm scars, turned and tied on the apron in the kitchen. Tofu sheet stir-fried with pork again? After a beat, his calm question floated out. I sprawled on the sofa and answered, How do you deal with someone who's ill? Treat him like he's normal. After dinner, while he was doing the dishes, I hooked his jacket with my finger. I timed it and blocked his path just as he tried to head back. I even washed the dishes. You should let me return to my room. He kept that chilly attitude, but with my pink cartoon barrette, it was downright ridiculous. I couldn't help it. I snorted. What are you laughing at? His brows finally moved. Honestly, you're kind of cute sometimes, I said. He started to speak. I pressed a finger to his lips. Shh. We said we're getting your hair cut. I'm not living with a ghost. Gu Huaizhi got mad. After the cut, he shoved the barrette back at me. Yours. I stared at the newly minted heartthrob and couldn't fathom what he was mad about. But if he wanted to throw a fit, I couldn't be bothered to care. In a high-end villa community, hardly anyone strolls at night. We walked one behind the other, a whole Yangtze between us. He strode ahead. I lagged behind, coaxing strays. Here, Kitty. Kitty, come here, babies. One spotless tortoiseshell and one filthy Samoyed. One had been wandering forever. The other probably just dumped. The motto of strays is, move fast or miss out. Same for dogs. My luck tonight was unreal. I scored a cat and dog combo in one go. Yeye's tail was practically a propeller. And the kitten rubbed so much fur onto my baggy harem pants I looked half furry myself. I laughed too loud, and the man in front heard. With his bangs gone, the gloom was gone too. Hands in pockets. He planted himself like a model. Why are you walking so slow? He asked. Dry as toast. I dug at my ear and tilted my head. What are you mumbling about? You're too far. I can't hear. He took a few long strides, ready to snap, but when he looked down and saw the cat, his eyes lit up. He reached to pet it. I blocked him. The cat's mine. He reached for the dog. I blocked him again. The dog's mine too. First claim rules, got it? His lips tightened. After holding it in forever, he suddenly tried my own trick. We're married. Community property. Oh, so you remember we're married? I drawled, dragging out the words. What married couple walks home with a whole river between them? He tried to argue and ended up red-faced. They really picked the wrong person for this redemption arc. Yeye shed a ton in the bath. I was crouched in the bathroom, exhausted, and of course Gu Huaizhi had an episode. Before, whenever he felt awful, even my shamelessness didn't work. Today I only got him out because he happened to be relatively stable. Dog hair was flying everywhere. I yelled from the first floor for him to come down and help, but he ignored me. The floor was covered in suds, and my left foot tangled with my right. I did a full-on split and slammed hard onto the marble tiles. Ow, damn it. The thud was followed by a perfectly pronounced curse. From upstairs, he finally poked his head out, his damp eyes scanning for me. Jean Yuhua? I didn't answer. I was in too much pain to make a sound. The dog nudged me anxiously with its nose, barking a few times. Only then did Gu Huaizhi rush down in slippers, pushing open the bathroom door. I think my hip joint just shattered, I said, trembling, as he bent down and scooped me into his arms. Gu Huaizhi may want to die mentally, but I might actually die physically. 3 a.m., orthopedic hospital. He looked haggard, with a big white dog squatting beside him. I lay on the bed, mummified in bandages. Ooh, I've always been a crybaby when it comes to pain. Once the tears start, they don't stop, but every breath tugged at the wound, making it hurt even more. Gu Huaizhi, can you tell me a joke so I stop crying? He froze for a few seconds, pulled out his phone, and started searching on Baidu, then reading word for word. Once in a cold winter, old Wang found a frozen snake under a tree. The kind-hearted old Wang put the snake in his coat and took it home. The next day, he hung a sign under the tree that said, "No peeing or pooping here." In the bleak hospital room, we stared at each other for a few seconds. Then I burst out laughing like thunder, which only made my wound hurt worse. Ow, okay, I'll behave. But Gu Huaizhi clearly didn't get the joke. Looking baffled, he asked what was so funny. Rubbing my mouth to hide my grin, I explained. The old man thought the frozen poop was a snake. Oh, he got it. 3 minutes later, another loud laugh echoed in the room, this time from him. While my cast was still on, I sent my sick note to my boss and stayed in bed from dawn till dusk. But Gu Huaizhi didn't get to slack off. 6 a.m., in the dead of winter, the dog parked itself outside his bedroom door, howling on the dot. Yeye's smart, she knows I can't walk her with a broken leg. When he passed my room, I could feel the resentment radiating off him. But when he's petting that ball of fluff, he's grinning ear to ear. You can't just enjoy the good stuff without taking responsibility. The world doesn't work that way. I rolled over under my thick blanket, happily closing my eyes. From then on, the man who used to have insomnia every night started falling asleep right on time, thanks to the dog's chaos. Half a year into this so-called redemption script, my progress was still at zero. The system's chores like cooking, doing his laundry, having heart-to-hearts to untie his knots, I hadn't done a single one. Instead, I'd been freeloading off Gu Huaizhi's cooking. Sometimes, when I saw him hand-washing clothes, I'd toss my sweater in too. Eventually, he got used to it, and even asked me if I had anything to wash. It's like he'd adapted to me being his wife, with a cat and a dog in the house now. The once empty home had become lively. 3 floors still weren't enough for those two to run around. Since Gu Huaizhi doesn't work, he spends his rich guy leisure time painting. He used to hole up in his room for it, but now, with the tortoiseshell and Yeye always wanting company, he's moved his easel to the living room. Every day when I get home from work, I see my beautiful, slightly unhinged husband playing house. Okay, fine, I admit it. Illness aside, the man is gorgeous. Sometimes I can't help myself. I need to discuss something with you. After dinner, I sat across from him, fingers interlaced, dead serious. What is it? He handed me the cat. You're finally admitting the tortoiseshell's yours. His dopey look made me feel almost guilty. I suddenly remembered we've been married a long time, haven't we? I took the cat, leaning closer. The lemony scent of laundry detergent filled my nose. I stared into his dodging peach blossom eyes, watching his Adam's apple bob, and said, word by word, as my husband, you're obligated to keep me warm in bed. Mr. Gu Huaizhi, you don't want your wife to suffer in lonely, cold nights, do you? I blinked at him, sounding utterly sincere. In truth, there was another big reason my bed was freezing. Even preheating my feet didn't help. And with electric blankets being a possible electrocution hazard, the in-house human furnace with adjustable settings seemed like the safer bet. He's thin-skinned, but after a few more nonsense lines from me, he actually agreed, ears bright red. He moved all his essentials into my bedroom. 10+ silk pajamas instantly filled the wardrobe to bursting. After my shower, I was about to open my laptop to binge a show when I looked up to see my husband standing by the bed like a shy flower, head down, picking at his shirt hem. Sit, I said, patting the 2-meter-wide bed. It took a while before I felt the mattress dip beside me. Sure, we see each other all the time, but tonight was our first time actually sharing a bed. Memorable especially because he was trembling. While I watched my show, I wondered why the bed seemed to vibrate. I turned to find him curled under the covers, shaking like a leaf. What's wrong with you? I pressed my warmed hands to his forehead, burning hot. He had a fever. I ran downstairs for the medicine box, waking both the cat and dog. They trailed me up and down. His cheeks were flushed, sweat beading his face, and he looked at me with guilt. Zhang Yuhua, do you think I'm just a burden? That you'd be better off tossing me away? Why bother with me? I don't even deserve. His voice was hoarse from the fever, and still he kept on. My hands froze mid-capsule, and I snapped, full lion's roar. Shut up and take your meds. You sound like Donald Duck, quack, quack, quack. If I didn't still owe him from the broken leg incident, I wouldn't be wasting time on this drama king. After a bad night's sleep, I could barely keep my eyes open at my desk today. The manager plopped a stack of files on my desk, adjusting his glasses. Zhang Yuhua, it's your turn for a business trip. I checked the destination, and the sky fell. A place even colder than Ninguta. And they expect a cold-averse girl like me to go? I might freeze to death, manager. Manager, if you don't go, you might starve to death. What a joke. Do you know who my husband is? The richest man's son in A City, sitting on billions. But he could end his life any time, leave a will donating it all, and I'd still be a penniless nobody, trapped in this world with no one to rely on. All right, I'll be there on time. Don't worry, boss. In the end, I plastered on a fake smile, all obsequious, and took the assignment. Lately, Gu Huaizhi had taken a liking to playing guitar. As I pressed my fingerprint to the lock, I heard music from inside. He was humming a tune that sounded awfully familiar, like my phone ringtone. It was a song I used to love. I never expected him to know it. Honestly, sometimes I envy how he can just stay home all day, doing whatever he wants. No work, no fear of losing his job. Me, I could only drag my tired body upstairs to pack my suitcase. Gu Huaizhi saw I was back, called out to me once, then shut up, batting at the tortoiseshell with a cat teaser. It wasn't until he heard the sound of a zipper on my suitcase that he came running barefoot to my bedroom door, frowning in suspicion. "Where are you going?" "Business trip. 1 or 2 months." I didn't feel like talking to him. Just thinking about going to such a cold place, with co-workers I barely know, and no one to talk to, made me want to cry. "That long?" he murmured. "Alone?" I shook my head. "With my idiot boss." Silence. I locked my suitcase. Around midnight, I heard the sound of him turning over and quietly opening the door. Even though he walked as lightly as possible, I couldn't sleep because of the trip, so I still heard it. He turned on the kitchen light downstairs, clutching a few pills in his hand. So, Gu Huaizhi had been on antidepressants all along. Honestly, to me, this man is like a kite hanging in midair, tied to only a thin silver thread. You never know which gust of wind will snap it without warning. When he got back in bed, I shoved my ice-cold hands into his arms. "I'm freezing, warm me up." He didn't speak, just clasped my hands in his. Until the stars outside had almost faded, he leaned close and whispered in my ear, careful as could be, "Can I come with you on your trip and bring the tortoiseshell and Yeye too?" His voice was so faint, it was practically a mosquito's buzz, like he didn't really mean to ask, but I heard it anyway. "Sure." His eyes widened in shock for a split second. Then he tucked the corner of the blanket over my shoulder. "Let's drive. We'll take the biggest off-road vehicle." "Oh?" He meant that black, ridiculously badass Hummer in his dust-covered garage. "You even remember where the keys are?" I asked, a little doubtful. He thought for a long while before mumbling, "I think so." The trunk was crammed with pet food, luggage, his easel, and guitar. The cat and dog sat in the back seat. Gu Huaizhi buckled himself into the passenger seat. It had been ages since he'd gone anywhere far. I asked when was the last time he'd traveled. He said maybe 5 years ago, or 9. Couldn't remember. No wonder, like a bird in a cage all this time. How could he be happy? We drove north for over 10 hours. By the time we arrived, even the Samoyed had lost its smile. My co-worker saw me hauling bag after bag from the car and rolled his eyes. "What is this? Moving your whole household for a business trip?" I grinned. "Pretty much brought my 2 kids too." My co-worker's jaw dropped, then snapped shut when he saw the furballs. "TC, by the way, in this script I'm still in the marketing department, doing brand planning. But the only difference from my original world is that the bosses and co-workers here are even more petty, and nobody said I couldn't bring family on a business trip. I didn't stay in the company's rented apartment. Gu Huaizhi found a 1-bedroom, 2-living-room place closer to the office. But the next day, in a meeting, because I stepped into the doorway with my left foot first, the bald deputy manager started coughing pointedly. "Some very few female employees. I suggest you not try to be special. Don't think coming to work means enjoying yourself, All dolled up every day. What good is that? Taking shortcuts will only hurt you." I kept my head down, checking my bank balance on my phone. Plenty there. Decided I'd had enough. Bam! I stood up, slamming the table. Just a bit part NPC in a crappy script, and he dares throw shade at me. Some very few male, balding employees shouldn't think being nearly 50 gives them the right to lord it over others. Working half your life and still just a deputy. Shipped off here same as us. I don't know where you get the face to lecture anyone. Forget it if I keep talking. They'll accuse me of elder abuse. When I finished, bald Mediterranean and the loser next to him just stared at each other. The conference room was dead silent. I turned and walked out in style. You don't know his face was darker than the bottom of my shoe. Huddled by the radiator, I told Gu Huaizhi how I'd gone full blast at work today, laughing till I nearly fell over. He listened intently, and when I laughed, he laughed too. With his naturally fine features, the way his eyes curved was more seductive than a succubus. Come here. I crooked a finger. He set down his apron and knelt on the other side of the tortoiseshell. A soft kiss landed. Something at his neck caught my eye. It was just an ordinary silver chain, but hanging from it was a ring. That's a pretty unique necklace. Gu Huaizhi took it off and said calmly, It's our wedding ring. I tried to recall our first meeting. I think the table already had a marriage certificate and 2 rings on it. Later, I just tossed them into a drawer. Oh right, the system told me another rule back then. If you stop interfering in his life, then in a year, you can divorce him and return to your original world. More than half a year had passed, I'd nearly forgotten. I just thought living with Gu Huaizhi, with no utility bills and a big villa, was pretty cost-effective. I asked him, so why wear it around your neck? Because I'm afraid I'll lose it. That made me laugh. You're more likely to lose it wearing it like that. He lifted his gaze, and for the first time, I saw expectation in his eyes. But as long as I see it every day, I'll remember I'm your husband. Ugh, so sappy I can't take it. I turned my head away, refusing to look at him. But in that moment, the door to my heart wouldn't shut. Wow, this sly guy. In the north, the heating was on. Even with snow piling outside the window, the house was so warm it made me yawn. After a whole week of overtime, the weekend finally came. Sure, there'd been a few spats with co-workers on this trip, but nothing serious. I was still the lead on this product plan, coordinating tasks with the branch office here. No matter how much Old Bold hated me, he couldn't get rid of me. If he dared fire me, I'd sue. It had been ages since I'd seen snow. After wrapping thick scarves around the big dog and little cat, I called Gu Huaizhi out to build a snowman. Ever had a snowball fight? I rolled a snowball, and while he was shoveling snow, I launched a perfect hit. He shivered from the cold. That's chilly. I've never played. They used to say playing in the snow would make me sick, so they wouldn't let me, and no one ever played with me. They were probably his parents. Seeing his mood dip, I lobbed another snowball. No one ever? I'm standing right here, aren't I? Don't drag your feet, my third snowball's already ready. Snow made the ground slippery, but I was bundled up and could take a fall. My nose was red from the cold, but I still didn't want to go home too soon. In below-zero weather, hardly anyone wanted to be outside. A neighbor passing by with groceries gave us a sidelong glance and muttered to herself, "Must be from the south. What's so fun about this kind of snow? Crazy." Well, she wasn't wrong. Gu Huaizhi's hair had grown out again, and he needed a trim. I told him there was a salon right at the entrance of our complex. "Aren't you going with me?" he asked, wrapping the wrong scarf around his neck without realizing it. "I haven't finished exporting this file yet. And hey, you've got the wrong scarf on. Can't I wear yours?" He kept clutching that bit of red, refusing to let go. Fine. After he left, I rubbed my sore nose and did some stretches in the living room, then spotted a pill bottle by the door. Small, white. The label had fluoxetine written in black ballpoint pen, so he was still taking his meds. I'd thought he hadn't brought them when we came here. I picked it up and set it on the entryway shelf. My phone pinged. It was a photo from Gu Huaizhi, with a line of text. I opened it, disaster haircut. "If I get ugly, will you dump me?" When he came back, his eyes were red. Honestly, it wasn't that bad. Just that the broody husband vibe had turned into goofy boy next door. Not that ugly. Really. "It's not bad, really," I said, touching his cold face, feeling a bit guilty. How was I supposed to know the salon by the gate was that sketchy? Besides, hair grows back. Lose it, and it'll grow again. Face is still here. Country's still here. What's there to worry about? I'm not great at comforting people, and I could tell if I kept going, he might cry. "Gu Huaizhi, I'm not going to leave you. Seeing him so quiet, I answered the question he'd asked over text. I wasn't going to leave him so long as he didn't give up on himself. But when will my hair grow back? It's such a long wait. Will I make it? He gazed out the window, voice so low it was almost to himself. A sudden ache swelled in my nose, stinging with the urge to cry. We'd been laughing together just before. But what about someday down the line? That night, we lay back to back in silence. The bed was warm, but my feet stayed cold. When I heard movement behind me, I still swung my feet over and shoved them into his arms. Cold feet warmed them for me. He shivered, then shifted to lie facing my direction. Zhan Yuhua, your feet are freezing. I'm always cold, you know. In the dark, we couldn't see each other's faces. Zhan Yuhua, do you need me? Duh. You're a walking space heater. Every home should have one. He chuckled and pulled the blanket tighter. Zhan Yuhua, who am I? Gu Huaizhi, my husband. I answered too smoothly, too naturally, even I felt startled. I'd never thought his life or death had anything to do with me. But over time, as we got used to each other, that wedding ring that once meant nothing kept shining brighter. I can't have actually fallen for him, can I? In the early hours, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. In my last few days of work here, I was swamped. A colleague I'd been pairing with in meetings heard I was heading back next week and insisted on dragging me to her shoe store. See if there are any heels you like. Take a few pairs home. I designed them myself. My eyes lit up instantly, but in the end I chose only one pair pointed stilettos with rhinestones. The stones fall off easily, not durable. That's fine. I'll treat them as collectibles. Hugging the shoebox in my arms, I waddled through the snow like a puffed-up penguin. Ye heard the door open and barreled into me so hard I almost flew 10 meters. The living room lights were off. I picked up the box the dog had knocked from my hands and wiped the melted snow off with a wet tissue. The floor was shining from being freshly mopped. I glanced at the closed bedroom door and said nothing. Opening the box, I pulled out the tube of superglue I'd just bought, dragged a chair to the balcony, and sat down. One rhinestone had fallen off before I even left the store, but it refused to stick back on, no matter how I tried. Finally, I shoved open the window and wailed dramatically, "Oh no, my God, I can't go on." The living room light finally flicked on. With the light behind him, all I could see was his sharp, thin jaw. What happened? His voice was soft as a feather. My limited edition heels are ruined. Wiping at my tears, I caught sight of his uncovered arm. Are they sold out? Did you check the website? Let me see. He fumbled for his phone in a rush. They're custom made, can't buy them anywhere else. Just this pair. I held out the rhinestone. See? Pretty, right? It used to be right here on the heel. He looked at the tiny hole in the crystal, then lifted the heel. Glue won't work. You need to sew it on. But I don't have a needle and thread, and I can't sew. We've got some at home. I'll fix it for you when we get back. He even knew how to sew? I sniffled, staring at him in disbelief. He came closer, with a sigh. So don't cry. It's not broken. At year's end, Gu Huaizhi moved the oil paintings from the villa's storage room into the living room. One portrait after another looked oddly familiar to me, like I'd seen them in another life. Crouching to study them closely, I realized some of the girls looked a bit like me. Like this one, of a girl eating an apple. Who's this? I pointed at it. She was even wearing the same pajamas as me. Gu Huaizhi paused in labeling the date, looked up and asked, "Doesn't it look like you? Is my painting that bad?" In the lower left corner was a date, 2014. A 10-year-old painting? I was even more confused. Checking my phone's calendar, I found that it was, in fact, the year 2014 right now. So I hadn't crossed into another world, I'd just come back to another point in time? Gu Huaizhi, your paintings are beautiful. Did you ever hold an exhibition before? I picked up a paintbrush from the floor, its tip stained with a bit of blue paint. Who would like them anyway? He said, mocking himself again. I would. And at that moment, I finally realized he really would leave at the end of 2014. Because I had seen Gu Huaizhi's art exhibit on the 10th anniversary of his death at the age of 25. A genius painter who fell like a shooting star, quietly gone. That was the last sentence in his biography. Back then, I crouched in the art museum, not knowing his real name, not knowing his face, feeling nothing but sadness for such gifted works. How could he die so young? He could have created so much beauty. His artistic style back then had inspired me in my company's branding work. Now, my muse was standing right in front of me, and I could see his fate in one glance. I started watching everything he did. But he was the same as ever, walking the dog on schedule, cleaning the cat's bed, playing guitar, painting. My presence seemed to have changed his life just a little, since I definitely brought him more trouble. One sunny day, I asked, "Are you happy with me?" He said, "Happy, every day, just knowing I can wait for you to come home. I start looking forward to it again." I suddenly went quiet, then turned away, not wanting to respond. He chased after me, asking if I was feeling bad because of my period, offering to make brown sugar tea. I pulled away from his arms and reached under his pillow, pulling out a suicide note. He'd even gone so far as to put all his assets in my name, and ended with a fake, "I'm sorry, I love you." What is that supposed to be? "I'm sorry, I love you, but I'm still going to die?" So even though you've fallen for me too, you still won't care about how I feel? When exactly were you planning to give me this? I asked calmly, face blank. Were you waiting for the day I came home? Called your name, got no answer, searched everywhere, and finally opened the door to find you lying in a pool of blood? He started to panic. He had no idea when I'd found it. He was probably still wondering he'd hidden it so carefully inside the pillow lining. How could I have found it? Did you think I'd be moved and devastated and never forget you for the rest of my life? I gave a short laugh, tossed the paper aside, and slipped the wedding ring off my finger into the trash. When he tried to pick it up, I stopped him. Why pick it up? Come with me to the Civil Affairs Bureau. He shook his head. No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. I turned to search the cabinet for our marriage certificate. Where is it? What are you doing? He gripped my wrist, his breathing quickening, chest rising and falling. Gu Huaizhi, I want a divorce. I looked him in the eye, utterly serious. The bedroom was dim, curtains drawn tight. I could hear him choking back sobs, broken and shaky. At first I stood in front of him, but gradually he bent over as he cried. Then I sat on the edge of the bed, silently watching him, feeling my gaze. He edged closer, trembling, wrapping his arms around my knees. No, no! You promised to let me be your husband! I reached to take the necklace from his neck, tilting up his chin. But I don't want to be a widow. Gu Huaizhi, do you even remember how we got together? He looked lost, helpless, he thought, hard, carefully, but still couldn't recall. I'd been pulled back to this time by the system, maybe because of that portrait in the museum, or maybe because the universe glitched. Either way, I don't belong here. After a silence, I told him the truth. So whatever you want to do, I can't control. That's your freedom. But before you have your freedom, we must have nothing to do with each other. Only after we divorce can I leave. I tore the last page from the calendar, found the marriage certificate, and stuffed it into my bag. Don't divorce me! He clung to the hem of my shirt, refusing to let go, a tear falling onto the collar of his sweater. Zhang Yuhua, you can't do this. I looked down at my husband, kneeling on the floor. This man, who had lost all interest in life, fantasized about ending himself to leave his wife with some unforgettable scar. He suffered and yet enjoyed my company, reaching out for help, and I responded, saying I needed him. But just feeling needed was enough for him, and in the end he still wanted to throw me away. I wasn't going to let him have his way. If anyone was leaving, it would be me leaving him first. I yanked my shirt free, the cat and dog sensing our fight, circling anxiously at our feet. I waved them back and turned a corner, crouching on the lawn in a daze. After all, the divorce hadn't happened yet. Even if we were down to the final days on the timeline, I wasn't going to just vanish. I toyed with the necklace in my hand. He'd worn it for so long, and it still gleamed. Its owner cherished it, but not himself. 5 minutes later, he burst out the door in a panic, nearly sobbing his heart out. Zhan Yuhua, Zhan Yuhua. No, no, I don't want to die anymore. Come back. I won't be mad at you. I want to be with you. Please, don't leave me. I stepped out from the corner, nudging his toe with my foot. Really? He scrambled up and wrapped me in a frantic hug. I want to be with you, forever. I wiped his tears and let out a breath. Gu Huaizhi, this is what it feels like to lose someone. Your tears haven't stopped since just now. If it were me, do you think the last sentence in that letter would mean anything? I love you if you mean it. You say it to my face. The system announced mission success, just as my last day to divorce and go home arrived. In the end, though, the divorce never happened. The shiny ring was still on my right hand. I looked around at the familiar apartment, with his paintings and my design drafts on the table. I was home. Was this all just a dream? My phone showed the date had returned to 2024. My WeChat chat with my boss was still stuck on the last line. I've already been to Gallery C. But where was Gu Huaizhi? Where were my cat and dog? For a whole week, I stayed in a haze. I even wondered if I'd become obsessed with designing that ring to the point of madness. After taking a day off, I decided to visit the art museum before going to the hospital. Following my phone's map, I found Gallery C. Sure enough, it was the same portraits I remembered. Only now, the one in the center was of the apple-eating girl. I stared at it for a long time, finally letting my gaze drop to the signature. Anonymous. No name. On my way to the hospital, in a rush, I accidentally knocked someone's phone out of their hand. Picking it up, I realized it was an iPhone 6. In this day and age, sorry. I handed it to him, but he didn't move. Confused, I looked up, ready to glare, and froze at the sound of a familiar, aggrieved male voice. Wife, where have you been this past week? And this city looks different. There are things here I've never seen. After a ringing in my ears, I heard an electronic voice again. Miss Zhan Yuhua, your husband was making such a fuss that we had to fast forward the timeline to send him back to you. We thought, with his illness cured, he could focus on his art. But instead, he went completely mad, smashed all his paintings, and wouldn't stop shouting to see you. We couldn't handle this genius anymore. Oh, and we brought the cat and dog too. He's your problem now. Good luck. Goodbye. He was still rambling complaints, but I was laughing so hard my tears were about to fall. Gu Huaizhi. Let's go home. Time and space overlapped, and from then on, lovers would never miss each other again.